Today is all about true crime. Just why are we so fascinated by true crime? What is it about these dark and disturbing tales that really draw us in? Sometimes we'll be even watching it late at night when we really know we should be asleep. So I want to give the psychology really behind our fascination with true crime and understand maybe some of the deeper reasons why these stories captivate millions of people around the world. So to start off with, I want to look at within evolutionary psychology. So from this perspective, our interest in true crime may be deeply rooted in our survival instincts. So according to evolutionary psychologists, murder, theft and other crimes have been part of human society really since the hunter-gatherer days. And it was crucial for our ancestors to be highly attuned to the dangers in their environment because this would allow them to protect themselves. So if they were maybe to understand the who, the what, the when, the where, or even the why of a potential threat, they will be able to better protect themselves and their loved ones. And this still stands true today because that instinct hasn't disappeared. Even today, we are wired to understand what makes people who offend maybe tick as a way to safeguard ourselves or maybe the other people around us. It's a way for people to make sense of the darkness in the world and maybe to reassure themselves that they can protect themselves and those who they care about. Then I want us to think about gender differences in the true crime fascination. So in 2010, there was a study by the University of Illinois. So within this study, they found that women are generally more drawn to true crime stories than men. But why? So the study suggested that women are particularly interested in stories that provide an insight into a killer's motives, show how a victim escaped, and often feature female victims. So hopefully you can see that there's an evolutionary perspective here also, that people are naturally drawn to stories where they can identify with the victim and learn strategies for them to stay safe. And within this, that true crime for some can be seen as a survival guide. It can offer tips and strategies potentially to avoid becoming a victim. And the psychological pull is all about learning, about empathizing, and about staying vigilant. So then let's think about the third aspect, so the reassuring narrative formula. So what does this actually mean? So another reason why true crime why people are drawn to it is this problem-solving element. So many murder mysteries follow a tried and true narrative formula. So a horrible crime is committed, clues are left behind, and eventually the killer, normally it is about murder, the killer gets caught and is brought to justice. So this formula gives us a reassuring sense of conflict and resolution. And we're drawn to the familiar structure, the tragedy, the investigation, and then finally the relief when justice is served. And it's a simple but effective narrative, and it never really seems to get old, but it continues to draw people in for that reason. One, that it's familiar, but two, that you can see that pattern emerging, and at the end of the true crime you get that relief. Then 4 is thinking about moral clarity, particularly in quite a complex world that many of you may agree with. So true crime, it reinforces our sense of moral clarity. So the stakes in these stories are very clear. There's a strong sense of right and wrong, or good versus evil. And this can be quite appealing in a world where the lines between right and wrong are often blurred. And then feeling empathy for the victims and the outrage as maybe people get away with things or that it takes maybe a long time to be caught. This taps into our humanity. It reminds us that despite the complexities in the world that we're living in modern life, that some things like justice and morality remain the same. They remain constant throughout. Then 5, I want us to think about vicarious participation and education. So you've seen maybe a theme of education and learning throughout true crime. But true crime stories, they let us participate in a world that is forbidden, obviously vicariously. So horror films, maybe they offer a safe way for us to explore the darkest aspect of human nature. Sometimes some of us get a thrill from the danger, but from a distance. And it's about being able to watch these things that are maybe quite taboo, quite unique, quite maybe often horrific, and things that we would never normally see in our real life. But it's not just about the thrill. So many of us watch these shows and we play detective. So we try to solve the case ourselves. If you like true crime and maybe you've watched it with other people, you'll be talking about it. You'll be thinking about who did that, when did that happen, what did they say, is that related to that? And you try and play detective yourselves. And online communities are filled with amateur sleuths, maybe bringing all the clues together. And sometimes some of these things maybe have even helped to catch the people who have committed the crime. But it's a very strange mix of entertainment and education, and it feels quite unfair to call it education. But obviously, if we look at the psychological perspectives, it can be educating. But within true crime, we also learn to kind of maybe spot the warning signs of the dark personalities. And I've got another video that looks at dark personalities as well. Then 6, kind of thinking maybe going along the theme of morality, is that it gives us a glimpse into our own morality. So true crime reminds us of our own mortality and the fragility of life. So in comparing sometimes our lives to those of the victims, we may find comfort in the idea that no matter how tough things are, they could always be worse. And it's a sobering reminder that life is unpredictable and that safety is never guaranteed. But instead of turning away, we're drawn to these stories, perhaps in a way of understanding our own fears and anxieties. So, why do we love true crime? As you can see, that the reasons are complex and multifaceted, from evolutionary instincts to moral clarity to maybe thinking about problem solving and even a brush with our own fears. These stories resonate with us on multiple levels, and true crime offers us a way to explore the darker side of humanity, all whilst keeping us safe and sound on our own sofas. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it interesting. Please like and subscribe, and as always, if there is anything else you would like me to cover, please drop that on the comments as well. Thank you and take care.